Okay, so I'm going to call the May 25th, 2020 Langley City Regular Council meeting to order. And so I'm Mayor Val Vandenbroek, and I'd like to welcome everybody here and begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Masqui, and Semi-ANNU First Nations. Before we get started with the business of the day, I'd like to take a couple of moments. First of all, Langley Lodge. It's absolutely impossible to adequately express our condolences to the families, the residents, the caregivers, and the staff of Langley Lodge. Can't even imagine the heartbreak that everyone there is experiencing going through this current ordeal. Something that none of us could have ever imagined. So I'm sure in saying that, you know, please know everyone at Langley Lodge or associated to it that our hearts break along with you. And we're very truly sorry of what you're going through. And we're there with you 100% and anything you need. I also want to send my sincere condolences to the snowbirds team who recently lost Captain Jen Casey in a tragic accident. We are so appreciative of the kind intentions that this snowbirds mission had, and unfortunately it ended in tragedy. But just know that our thoughts are with the Royal Canadian Air Force. And unfortunately the COVID-19 is us in so many ways, and I know this has been a really challenging time for everyone, and we're going into week 10, but I want to take this opportunity to thank all the citizens for staying strong and kind during this difficult time, and for being there for each other and doing your part by staying home or being an essential service worker or frontline worker, or just doing your part with everything and keeping our community safe as per directives of Dr. Bonnie Henry, our Provincial Health Officer. So as we move into phase 2, the city has put extensive thought into how to reopen our various facilities, and working under the directives of WorkSafe BC and the PHO, we will be looking forward to we already have been able to reopen our bike parks or tennis courts, community gardens, and dog parks. And we will continue to look forward to moving forward slowly and safely as per the orders that come forward to us. Property tax notices will be sent out this week, and we're encouraging people to play through our online system. We will be, in fact, opening City Hall Corporate Service Department beginning June 1st for property taxes only. So please stay tuned for more information. We'll be coming out with that. So to get on to the order of business, I'm going to introduce the rest of my council members here this afternoon. I guess this afternoon still. I've got Councillor Nathan Pahal, Councillor Rudy Storteboom, Councillor Paul Albrecht, Councillor Rosemary Wallace, Councillor Terry James, and Councillor Gail Martin. I have Francis Chung, our CEO, Kelly Kenny, our Corporate Officer, Darren Light, our Chief Administrative Officer, Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Carl Johansson, our Director of Development, and Rick Baumhoff, our Director of Engineering. So I believe put through the motion that the May 25th, 2020 agenda be adopted as circulated. Need a mover and a seconder.
Would I be able to add an item?
Want to add your amendment to that?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Just an item for physical distancing on sidewalks, if possible.
And you would like to bring that, sorry, I'm just writing while I'm talking to you, Nathan. Under, I guess, new and unfinished business under number 8, we'll add that in, Ms. Kenny?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so I guess we can vote on the amended agenda. Or I guess we got to vote on that. Sorry. Councillor Sorbo, did you have a comment?
No, I'm moving the motion.
Okay, thank you. I need a seconder with that. Or Nathan and Rudy. Sorry, I'm trying to do 20 things at once. It's hard to keep up sometimes. Okay, so we got a first and a seconder. Call the vote on that, on the amendment. All those in favor? Seeing nobody opposed, carries. Adoption of the minutes, regular meeting minutes from May 11th, 2020, that the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 11th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. I have Councillor Wallace and Councillor James, and any discussion on that? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries as well. Special pre-closed meeting minutes from April 20th, 2020, that the minutes of the special pre-closed meeting held on April 20th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Any corrections? Need a mover and a seconder on that, please. Councillor James and a seconder on that. Need a seconder, please, folks. Someone? Councillor Wallace, any corrections? Call the vote. All those in favor? Carries. All right, we have one delegation tonight, our City of Langley audit report, and we have a presentation from Darren Light, CPA CA City of Langley, and Ms. Christine Simpson, CPA CA Partner BDO Canada LLP. We have our admin report, our 2019 consolidated financial statements. So I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Before you this afternoon are our draft financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019. As part of the agenda package, there's a detailed report on the financial statements as well as a copy of the draft financial statements for 2019. I'd like to make a few brief comments regarding the statements and answer any questions that you may have, and then we'll turn it over to our auditor, Christine. On page 80 of the agenda, the financial statements outline the city's management's responsibilities to prepare the consolidated financial statements and to ensure that the accounting procedures and systems of internal control are in place to safeguard the city's assets. In addition to these internal controls, the city engages the accounting firm BDO Canada, that's old, to conduct the audit of the 2019 financial statements and to express an opinion as to whether the financial statements present fairly the position of the City of Langley and the results of its operations for 2019. As I mentioned, Christine will speak shortly to her audit report. On page 81 of the council agenda is the statement of financial positions. So at December 31st, 2019, the city had net financial assets of $46 million. This is an increase of $7 million over 2018 and provides a positive indicator that the city's financial flexibility, its ability to finance operating activities, and its ability to meet its current financial obligations. Non-financial assets have also increased in 2019, made up primarily of the $260 million of tangible capital assets. Assets are a significant economic resource managed by the city and are a key component of the delivery of services to our residents. The final line of this statement is showing the accumulated surplus of $306 million. It's important to note that this surplus is not surplus funds that can be allocated to fund a particular expenditure in the future, but rather provides a picture of how the city is managing its economic resources. It could also be interpreted as the net worth of the organization. If we raise revenues to acquire a tangible capital asset, a surplus will result. If the city does not invest in the maintenance and renewal of our assets over time, the accumulated surplus will gauge how we're maintaining our assets. It'll actually decrease through the amortization charge. In 2019, we had a positive increase in our accumulated surplus of $9 million. On page 82 of the financial statements, or on your agenda, we have the statement of financial activities, which shows all of the city's revenues and expenditures, which include the capital asset amortization. The overall operating surplus, which includes water, sewer, and the general fund, was $20,000. To this is added the increase in the tangible capital assets and the increase in the reserve balances to result in an overall annual surplus of $9 million. The operating surplus was the result of higher revenues, lower expenditures, and other transfer to reserves. In 2019, we directed $525,000 to the Prosperity Fund, $1 million to the Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve to provide financial flexibility if future revenues are adversely affected by COVID-19 pandemic, and an additional $470,000 to the Capital Works Reserve. In 2019, the financial plan bylaw amendment is required later in this meeting to allow for the over expenditures in development services, parks, as well as the larger transfer to reserves, as I just noted. Without going into too much more detail, those are the highlights of our 2019 financial statements. Are there any questions or point of clarification I can make or provide?
Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, and this directed to the mayor, to Mr. Light. Just for clarity, so if we're looking at, I guess, page 11 of the financial statements or page 35, I'm not sure which one is easier, but it's basically section 5, which is the accumulated surplus. And if you wanted to let me know if you're there, then I can ask for my question. Cool. So for clarity, when we look at the amortization costs, that's basically every year we're taking off so let's say we spent $5 million on an asset and it had a life of 5 years, we take $1 million off every year. That is correct?
Correct.
And that reflects in what would be our equity and our tangible capital assets, correct? So that money, I don't want to call it not real, but that's not cash if you would traditionally source it, right?
Right. So
when we look at the actual cash that we contributed, that would be on page 14, I guess, which is the capital assets additions of 7.4 million. So is that the actual cash that we spent in 2019 to acquire capital assets, or is that something different?
I'm on a different page. Sorry, where are you looking?
Oh, sorry. So in section 12, financial plan, which is on page 14, we see capital asset additions.
Yes.
So is that the actual, we
purchased
with cash, right? Cool. So, and that's just for clarity. So is there a way that we find out like what our replacement costs would be? Because obviously things depreciate over time, but if there was something that happened, that value wouldn't represent actually what it would cost to replace all our assets in the city. Where's that tracked?
Yeah, so that's what our financial statements are reflecting the historical cost of the assets at the point in time that we actually purchase it or acquire the asset. So replacement cost isn't reflected in the financial statements that we're seeing here. Our asset management plan that we're working on is going to be looking at basically that same sort of question, is how we basically put away money and resources so that we can replace the assets as they come due after the end of their useful life, to replace them. So that's something that's not reflected in this document, but something that we're working on.
Okay, cool. That was my question. Just when we look at that number of let me go back to that page. We have $260 million in the value of our assets as they're depreciated, but that number, if there was a catastrophe, would be higher than that $260 million, and that's reflected in another document. So when people are looking at this, I know there was the situation with other municipalities that were like, well, they have such a lot of money. And there was an article that was in the CBC, I think, a few months ago about how cities were sitting on what looked like cash, but really this is just a number, so to speak. It's not cash. The actual cash we have, sorry for this is 41 million. So if we look at what we have in our savings, it's $41 million. Correct?
2, yeah.
42, sorry. Cool, thank you. I just wanted some clarity. Thank you, Mr. Light.
So now we can turn it over to Christine Simpson from BDO, and she'll provide her report.
Thank you, Mr. Light. I'll just highlight quickly that BDO Canada has performed the audit. We received excellent cooperation from management. There were no audit adjustments or unrecorded audit differences during our audit. So we thank staff for their assistance in performing the audit that we did have to do on a virtual basis as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects. The financial position of the city at December 31st, 2019, and its consolidated results of operations, changes in net financial assets, and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with public sector accounting standards. And as just noted, those are recorded on a historical cost basis, not a fair value or replacement cost basis. We conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and we believe that the audit evidence we obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Management, as noted, is responsible for preparing the information as well as determining the appropriate internal controls to establish within the city. They do so to ensure that there are no material misstatements prior to us performing our audit. I will highlight that we are focused on determining whether there are any material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. We identify and assess the risks of material misstatement. We obtain an understanding of internal controls so that we can design our audit procedures. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies. And we conclude on management's use of the going concern basis, essentially that they believe that the city will be a going concern into the future, and that has to be assessed annually, even more so in time of crisis. We evaluate the overall presentation structure and content of the financial statements, and we obtain the appropriate audit evidence to support our opinion and ensure that the transactions are supported by business activities. And finally, we do have communications with those charged with governance, being the council. And we did so today, so they have the opportunity to review the audit and ask questions appropriately before we sign off on the audit. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you.
Ms. Simpson and Mr. Light, great report. Does anybody have any questions for either again? Sorry, I just gotta scroll through my list here. Seeing none, I do have one for staff, Mr. Light. I know Ms. Simpson had kind of commented on before with the new standards, but the PSAS standards, the new standards that are going to be, are we on par to do that? Or I'm sure you are. I just confirmation.
Yes, Madam Mayor, those are the two standards that were identified. We are looking into them, so they're got a longer time frame to when they have to be implemented, but there's something that's definitely on our agenda.
Okay, and how are we set up for the RCMP settlement?
So the city has a future police cost reserve that we have $3.2 million, $3.5 million in it at this point. That expenditure of $775,000 isn't due for basically till 2032, so quite a ways away. So we'll have to continue to monitor that reserve, but we'll have the funds available to make that payment at that point in time.
But we are expecting more costs to come from the RCMP as well, are we not?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And the other question I have, sorry, Mr. Light, I have one more question in regards to the assets review. They're currently being done by staff. Did we make use of FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Asset Review Program, or any other grants?
So we have looked at, there is a grant available currently for FCM, and we have to get our policy in front of council in order to go forward with that grant application. So we're that's in the mix as well, something that we're looking at, but it's coming forward to council pretty shortly.
Okay, great.
For your consideration. I have one other comment, Madam Mayor, if I may. I just want to thank Mr. Flack in my office and the rest of my staff for the extra work that had to happen this year because we did a virtual audit and just everything else that's going on. It was a difficult year, so I do appreciate those efforts immensely, actually. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for your comments, and council echoes that as well. So thank you. Okay, so I guess there's no other questions or anything. So Ms. Simpson, you're off the hook. Thank you very much for your participation tonight. So nice to see you. Even if
thanks for your help. Virtually. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so we have a motion that Council approve the 2019 consolidated financial statements. I need a mover and a seconder, please. I have Councillor James and Councillor Pahal. Any other discussion on that? No. Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carries. Excellent. Okay, so on to section 4, Mayor's Report. We have our upcoming meetings. The next 2 regular council meetings, we have one June 15th, 2020 at 3 p.m. and the following one will be June 29th, 2020 at 3 p.m. So please note those times have changed. We don't meet at 7 p.m. anymore. We meet at 3 p.m. on Zoom for the folks out there watching. Next up, we have the Recreation Update with Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Culture, and Community Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to pull up my report here. Hopefully that works. I'm not seeing it. Why am I not seeing it? There we go. There we go. All right. I much prefer doing it live in front of you than over Zoom. So this is the report, Madam Mayor and members of council and our audience for recreation for May 2020 in our new COVID times here. I want to bring up that we have launched our Fantastic Adventures Day Camp registrations, which will run June 29th through to September 4th. And it's out of Douglas Recreation Center. Staff or supervisors have been busy working on ensuring that there's safe protocol in place. We are having fewer kids in the camps, and we are only doing week-long registration rather than daily registration. Each of the children will have their own little packages for their art supplies and crafts, their own location to put their backpacks, etc. within Douglas Recreation Center, but much of the activity will be happening outside in the park. But this is running at Douglas Recreation Center all throughout the summer, 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we are also offering before and after care, which we call extended hours. So for more information or to register, people can dial 604-514-2865. We've also been busy putting on our website online events and activities. So we're sharing both events that we would have booked within our city boundaries, as well as activities that are happening elsewhere, so that people can stay engaged and connected online with local activities as well as things that are happening around the world. So if you go to langleycity.ca under Parks and Recreation, Recreation at Home, you'll find a whole list of activities that you can do. And one of the activities that has now gone virtual, and Madam Mayor promoted it last time, was our 58th annual Langley Walk. And we are encouraging people to go out and walk 5Ks in their own neighborhoods with their families or individually. And you can send a photo in to us if you wish at events@langleycity.ca. And the first 1,000 people who complete a 5-kilometer walk, email it into us, will receive the commemorative crest from the 58th annual virtual Langley Walk. And the photo that you have before you is a photo of several families that have completed it already. So that's very exciting. In addition to special events that are happening, we're also link recreation at home, so video links of active aging resources, arts and crafts, dancing for little ones, fitness videos, and those sorts of things. So again, I would encourage people to go to langleycity.ca under the Parks and Recreation tab, Recreation at Home, and you can connect to all our different activities that we are videoing and posting up there. And I'm happy to say that as part of our restart plan on June 1st, our youth programmer will be out at Douglas Park, and there'll be different activities happening each day. So he's been busy planning. He's been trying to connect with youth online as well, virtually. But he'll be running Monday through Friday, different times, and that's listed here on this PowerPoint as well as on our website. So we have weekly challenges on Mondays from 5 to 6 p.m., Art in the Park on Tuesdays from 5 to 6:30, Wellness Wednesdays 5 to 6, Teen Time 5 to 6:30, and Outdoor Sports from 4 to 6. And again, we're taking precautions to ensure that people are staying distant, physically distant, and also have their own supplies. So for more information, you can phone 604-514-2940. Now, Lynn, our fitness instructor, has been actively working out, and we've recorded several of her workouts. And again, it's on our website, but she is doing the body sculpt. Tracy has been doing our boot camp fitness. Amber, our cardio combo, and these are all familiar names for our public. And Sue has been doing gentle fit. So these can all be found on our website by looking at langleycity.ca, Parks and Recreation, and Recreation at Home. And we just want to remind people to stay active and stay safe. Remember your physical distancing, and no gathering in large groups. Fresh air is great with members of your family, and if you're sick, please stay home. That's my presentation for today.
Great, thanks, Ms. Hilton. It's great to see the online classes and stuff, and just the way staff has adapted. It's absolutely fantastic. So thank you all for doing that. Does anybody on council have any comments or questions for our recreation? Councillor Stortaboom, I believe, is the only one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much, Kim, for your report. I really appreciate that this is an especially trying time for your department, and that you've had to adapt to the new reality and all of the challenges associated with that. I'd really appreciate it if you could pass on council's respect and appreciation for staff and going the extra mile to accommodate our citizens and making adjustments in keeping with requirements for the pandemic that we're experiencing right now. Thank you very much for the report, for all that you do, and please extend best wishes to your team. Thank you.
Thank you, I will. We miss our people. We hope to see them soon.
We'll get there eventually. Okay, any other comments or questions for recreation? Seeing none, I guess off the hook. And we're up next with Councillor Albrecht has a report from Discover Langley City. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got something here, Madam Mayor, and I'll try to keep it brief, but it's a challenging time for the Discover Langley City, because people aren't going anywhere or doing anything, at least not yet. So it's a bit of a challenge. But as the pandemic continues, we're working hard to stay informed and to keep stakeholders informed on research, planning for recovery. The industry organizations have been very proactive in providing us with updates and resources on a regular basis. And of course, having numerous virtual meetings with Destination BC, Destination Think Tourism, marketing agencies, Vancouver Coast and Mountains Regional Districts, Tourism Industry Association, Fraser Valley Destinations, and so on. So they've been in constant communication with these partners to keep an inventory of who's open and what services they are able to provide. And you're encouraged to hear that most of the accommodation providers were able to stay open and fairly busy with construction crew guests. They have adapted their services to limit contact by implementing cleaning protocols, not offering breakfast buffets, and closing swimming pools. Social distancing has also been implemented. Research has identified that travelers are most wanting reassurance that businesses have best practices in place to keep everybody safe. Financially, we expect a 65% reduction in the budget for 2020, and that many of our accommodation providers will take advantage of tax deferral until September. And we've been prudent with the financials, and feel that the DLC can weather this storm by continuing to be conservative with spending. The marketing intern that was hired ended in May 1st, and will not replace that role in the foreseeable future. Instead, we're going to replace the role with a social media coordinator who will post interesting, timely, and current information on channels. And it's not an easy position considering the travel ban and stay-at-home order. So we have been focusing on a campaign for Destination BC to explore BC later. This involves posting images of parks, historic attributes, and the response from the public has been encouraging. The MRDT year-ending report has been completed and is awaiting year-end financials to submit to the province. This is a requirement of the program and ensures that we are following the approved tactical plan, and allows us to reflect on key learnings from those programs, as well as acknowledge the results of our efforts. In marketing, we have paused all marketing campaigns since the travel restrictions put in place, and it includes work on the digital marketing agency and Google. Social media is the only marketing we are still participating in with an awareness and feel-good campaign, rather than selling Langley City as a destination at this time. Our intern has worked on creating stories and itineraries that will be used once travel restrictions are lifted. These stories reflect optimism and ideas to explore the city while still being safe. Some of these stories will also be appropriate for distribution to travel media. We have updated our event hosting sponsorship package to better reflect the services we offer, and to require better reporting of marketing efforts by those who have been approved for funding. Event organizers who have an overnight component are encouraged to apply for support from the DLC. And finally, we compiled a list of restaurants that are providing takeout and delivery options that was circulated via social media, to much appreciation from the followers in our social media, and who still want to support local restaurants. And I encourage everyone to start thinking about supporting our local services as much as possible. And that's my report. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. A lot going on there. Councillor Wallace, did you have a comment or question? You're muted.
No, I was getting there. Thank you for your report, Paul Ulbrich. I know that things are going to be changing as we move forward through the summer. And so my question is in regard to, I mean, you talked about you're not sharing that information in regards to having people come to Langley City, but you mentioned in many organizations that you guys are associated with, Destination BC, Fraser Valley Destination. I'm just wondering, in moving forward in the next few months, I know that some municipalities are, you know, like White Rock did on the May long weekend, not, you know, closing their borders for people coming in. I guess I'm just looking, you know, what does that look like in the future, in the next couple of months? I mean, because we've given, you know, Bonnie Henry hasn't said stay home. We have been able to get outdoors. So yeah, just a question back to you, Councillor Ulbrich.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace, through the mayor. Every local community is going to be very unique and have its own challenges and opportunities. And I think it has to be a locally made program or process that's going to follow. As we heard earlier tonight from our CAO, we've got the strategy that we're in process of implementing. Discover Langley City is also working with people in the tourism industry to find out best practices, best policies, best procedures and moving forward. And they'll be implementing those to fit our community and what those goals and needs are. So we're not saying everything's all closed, of course, but at the same time, we want to ensure that the public is safe, the employees are safe, and the businesses are safe, and that there's not going to be any issues coming out of that. So it's slow and steady, and it'll be very thoughtful and respectful of all the interchanges, the dynamics, and the situations that each area will face. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I think slow and steady is going to be the new unprecedented word right now. Okay, anybody else have any? No, I don't see anybody else. Well, thank you, Councillor Albrecht. It was a great update. I know they've been sharing lots of pictures. It's been very good to see them on Facebook, posting pictures all around Langley City. So good job. Okay, so getting down to some business. We have bylaws. So our first bylaw up, we have bylaw 3125, a zoning amendment and development permit number DP 01-20 to rezone properties located at 5326, 5334, 5340, 5360 200th Street and 5321, 5331, 5341, 5361, 200A Street to accommodate a 4-story 92-unit rental apartment development. Motion, third reading of the bylaw, cited as zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment number 167, 2020, number 3125. I have Councillor Sturboom, Councillor Albrecht. I'm moving and seconding, I believe. And is there any discussion on that? Councillor Bahal and then Councillor Sturboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I had the opportunity to be at the advisory design panel along with Councillor Sturboom. It was really good. I think it was what we hoped for. I don't want to steal any words from him, but I was very impressed with both the professionalism of the advisory design panel members and the work that Mr. Johansson has put in to putting this together. So kudos on that. One of the things I did want to call out, which is very good about this project, is we're requiring a setback from 200th Street to provide a sidewalk and future protected bike lane facility there. It won't happen right away, but I understand that that's going to be required for redevelopment along that corridor, which is great to see because we know that that's extremely jammed and it's also an extremely dangerous corridor. So also thank you to the development department for working to make that a safer, active transportation corridor. I will be supporting this project.
Thank you. Councillor Sturboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Pahal, for your kind words. I'm happy to serve with you on the panel. And as I reported in our last meeting, the panel was in favor of the development proposal with some recommendations, and I want to compliment staff in working with the developer to be sure that those recommendations are implemented to the best of their ability with the developer. And the developer has been very proactive in working with the city. They've got a good track record, having built at least 4 other multifamily residential buildings, 2 of which are already rental buildings. So I want to say thanks to the staff for working through these tough times to move this proposal forward, and that they've done a great job in organizing the panel. And I too support the initiative. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I have a habit of unmuting at my little box and I got to mute on the bottom. So I apologize. I'm having that reaction today. Good comments, Councillor Sturboom and Councillor Pahal. I echo those sentiments. Just reading the reports now And what Mr. Johansson has done to change this panel advisory and the information that's coming out of it is a much better layout. I really appreciate it. So kudos to everybody involved in that, because it's just a lot of information, but set out very nicely. So good job on that. I think that was a great recommendation. So, okay, so if nobody else has any comments or suggestions, Councillor Wallace, go ahead.
Thank you.
Are you doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, I'm doing. And yeah, trying to figure out this whole Zoom thing. Thank you for the report. My question is, or my excitement was, when I looked into the notes, I saw the urban amenity agriculture was considered, but then it wasn't. So I was just, in moving forward, it's so exciting to see that we're actually looking at urban agriculture within our multi-residential buildings. So I just wanted to comment on that. And if Councillor Pakal or Sturtevant had any comments on that.
Did either one of you want to comment on that, or would you like a staff response? Staff response, please. Mr. Johansson, maybe? Francis, Mr. Chung?
Thank you. Yeah, maybe I'm not sure where Mr. Johansson went, but that's one of the things that we're actually really excited about in terms of our new OCP updates and zoning bylaw updates. And we're, as you know, we're going through the process right now of updating those plans. But, you know, for this development, we have essentially been in discussion with the developers that we would encourage you to consider some of the elements that we're actually considering right now for the OCP updates, which includes, you know, urban farm, urban agricultural amenities, community gardens on the rooftops, or on the second tier, just to sort of green the Langley city a little bit more. So yes, that's something that we're continuing to pursue, and where it's feasible and makes sense for both the developer and the city and future tenants of those developments, we would encourage them to place those at those facilities. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can you hear me now?
Yes, Carl, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, Francis covered that, and I was just going to say that we have had some applications come forward with urban agriculture, community garden plots, and that's something that's definitely going to be incorporated in our OCP policy moving forward. It's definitely an area that it's a lot of interest for sure from applicants, and we'll keep encouraging that going forward. Again, sorry about the late response. I had a problem with the mic here.
No worries, I do it too, so it's all good. And Councillor Wallace, did that answer your question?
Actually, it's an awesome answer. I'm so thrilled to hear that the city is going in that direction. It's something that many of our residents are looking for. Food security is big, and so yeah, I'm excited to hear that we're looking at that.
Me too. Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Is that okay? So I am going to call the vote this time for the third time. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that bylaw carries. So on to the next one, which is our financial bylaw amendment. So bylaw 3127, or sorry, pardon me, 3129, 2019 to 2023 financial plan bylaw amendment number 2. It's the first, second, and third reading of the bylaw cited as the financial plan 2019 to 2023, bylaw 2019, number 3099, amendment number 2 of bylaw 3129. And Councillor Martin? Was that to put the motion forward, or did you have a question or a discussion? Wait. Okay, I'm going to assume that Councillor Martin and Councillor Jane.
No, I'm just moving it, Val. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I just want a clarification. That's all. Thank you. Okay, and was there any discussion on that? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That carries. Excellent. Okay, now on to committee reports. We have the Crime Prevention Task Group, Lockout Auto Theft Signage. Councillor Paul, did you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What I'll do is I'll just read the two motions, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions if there's a seconder for those motions in that time. So I'll just read that council directs staff to investigate installing metal lockout auto crime signs around the intersection of 201 A Street and Mashad Crescent.
A seconder? I'll second it. Or Councillor Stordeboom or Councillor Wallace, either one. Take your pick, Kelly. Okay, any comments on that? Any discussion with Councillor? I have Councillor Martin.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, when the plastic signs were up, was there any stats compiled before they were stolen?
I would have to defer that to staff, and I don't think that Dave is here right now. But we can definitely get that, unfortunately, or maybe Mr. Chung has the information.
Yeah, through to Councillor Martin, through the chair. Yeah, we'll have to get that information from Mr. Salvage. Unfortunately, he's off sick today.
Okay. You know, I'd kind of like to see the stats. I'd hate to see the metal signs go up and then have them stolen. And I question whether we need 8 signs around 201A and Mashad. Yeah, I'd like to see the stats if they helped at all. It's a shame we still have to remind people to lock their cars, but I really would like to see the stats on that before I go ahead and approve this.
Okay. Councillor Stordeboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hall, for the recommendation that you bring forward from your crime task force. I can appreciate when signs get stolen. Having been a realtor for 25 years, I can tell you I've had a lot of signs stolen, a lot of signs defaced, and it is very, very frustrating. I can't help but be curious if this initiative is going to give us the results that we want, but I'm okay with supporting the group and appreciate the initiative. I can't help but wonder, though, the signs, when they were placed, I didn't happen to see them. Were they freestanding, or were they attached to the hydro poles, or were they placed on public-only property or private property? I can't help but wonder, from my experience, about a sturdy placement. I think if the signs were easy to take away, it might encourage that kind of activity, but something more significant would probably be left standing for a greater period of time. Can you comment on how those signs were installed?
I can, through the mayor, to you, Councillor Stordeboom. Yeah, they were attached to various objects. Unfortunately, it is very, very inexpensive plastic. So I think we were kind of not surprised at this outcome, which is why we're looking at the metal ones, which would be the standard signs that you would find throughout our municipality, which would be properly attached. Because with those plastic things, I think anyone could take that down, unfortunately. And that's what happened.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this initiative and will support it. But I can tell you from my experience, if your signs go missing, you might find them in the works yard. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? I just have a quick question for you, Councillor Pahal. ICBC used to make those metal. Why do they not make them anymore?
I can't comment on ICBC, but we did ask for them to do that. And if we look at the second motion, that's where we're going to explore that opportunity if they would be able to share in the cost of those signs. So yeah, they used to make them, they don't anymore.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to get an answer. We did ask them, but we will present the opportunity for them to cost share. And for further information, if not, we would actually just be using a Langley City branded sign, reminding people to lock out crime, because if it's us doing it, we should make sure that people are aware that this is a Langley City initiative. So.
Excellent. Can I make a suggestion for a friendly amendment, maybe?
Sure.
Move the intersections of 201A Street and Michaud Crescent and make it Langley City.
Sure. I'm sure we could do that, and then that would
That
give
way we're
discretion
not
to staff. Sure.
concentrated on one area, and then those signs would cover all of Langley City.
Sure. I think it will give the opportunity for the crime prevention task group and staff to put them as required.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, and so I'll call the vote on the amended motion. Did you want to bring forward the second one now, or are you going to do that later?
What would you prefer? I think I would prefer, I guess, right now that we vote on the one that's on the floor, and maybe I'll go to the next one later.
Yep. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Raise your hand. I have only, I believe Councillor Martin is the only one opposed. Yeah, so it carries. And then if I may, Madam Mayor, that council directs staff to explore the possibility of cost sharing with ICT. Okay. I'll second that. Any discussion on that? Okay, I'm going to call the vote on that. So all those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Thank you for bringing those forward, Councillor Pahal. All right, so next up we have Councillor James, who's going to talk to us about the Economic Development Task Force group, the Langley City Economic Restart Action Plan. Councillor James, is that?
Yep, I'm all ready to
Perfect.
go.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the members of council that have taken time out of their busy schedules to sit in and observe the meetings. We've had two very active, energetic, and forward-thinking and forward-moving meetings thus far, and everyone on council was in receipt of the committee report this afternoon and in our package as well. So I won't beat around the bush. I'm going to just do a little brief recap, and then I'm going to ask for a motion. So the COVID-19 pandemic introduced dramatic measures by senior levels of government in order to prevent the spread of novel coronavirus. Closing bars, dine-in service at restaurants, and personal service operators like barbers and dentists, physical distancing, and no permitted gathering in excess of 50 people became our new normal. These measures have directly saved lives, but resulted in significant impact on portions of the economy locally, provincially, and federally. We are now in phase 2 of the BC Restart Plan, and certain businesses may now reopen. The Economic Development Task Group turned its focus on learning the common issues, challenges, and opportunities facing the business community in order to generate ideas to restart the economy. These ideas culminated into the Langley City Economic Restart Action Plan, which focuses on encouraging and supporting residents, businesses, investments, and job creation opportunities in the city. The plan includes 16 action items under the following 5 themes: shared information, outreach, advocacy, stimulating economy, and financial support. Langley City cannot do this alone. The success of the plan will require partnership levels at all levels of government and agencies, and working together to help restart the economy and supporting local residents and businesses. The community is counting on us to guide the reopening process. We believe this plan will build trust and confidence in our local economy among the businesses, residents, and patrons by demonstrating leadership in information sharing, expertise, and overall support. So without further ado, I would like to put forward the recommendation from the task group that City Council approve the recommendation from Economic Development Task Group to endorse the Langley City Economic Restart Action Plan.
Okay, we got Councillor Albrecht as the seconder. Is that correct? Shake your head. Yep. Okay, that's fantastic. A great report there, Terry. That's wonderful. Both of you on this. Okay, so any discussion on this? Any questions? I know we were all there, majority of us. So Councillor Martin, do you have a question? Councillor Martin? Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor.
No, I didn't have a question, but I just want to say that having zoomed in on both meetings, they were fantastic meetings, and it's quite exciting to think that if when these things start coming to fruition, our community is going to be back on the roll. So thank all of the whole Economic Development Commission. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Sturdivant.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor James, for your report and for spearheading our recovery. I too attended by audit the 2 meetings of the group, and I'm very much impressed by the caliber and the quality of the people who are bringing forward these ideas to work with the community, and I'm excited at the prospect of this historic opportunity to start our economy again after going from zero, and we'll see how far, how fast, with caution, that we can take it for the benefit of our entire community. Thank you for heading this up. Thank you, Councillor Albrecht, for being the alternate, and my compliments to the entire group. I'm excited about this. I think it's really a wonderful time to showcase our entrepreneurs and what we can do and how much we impact our local economy. So thank you again very much. I look forward to being part of it.
Great, thanks for those kind words. All of council backs you up on that. It's a great, we're gonna get this done. Sooner or later, slowly and surely, we're all gonna get this done. And okay, so I'm gonna call the vote if there is no other discussion on this. I don't see anybody. So all those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries, of course, because yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say, Councillor James, I believe you have something else to share.
I do, thank you. So first of all, I just wanted to, I'm just delighted to inform council and the public that the implementation of the number of the action items are underway already. That's what I noticed about, as everyone is commenting on the smart minds around the table, is a lot of the individuals already came with plans in place or ideas, as well as members of council, since we had the last meeting, have stepped up and offered to either spearhead or be involved in a number of the initiatives as well. So again, to your point, Madam Mayor, we're all in this together. So it's very hopeful and heartwarming to see how many people are willing to jump in. So without further ado, though, I am delighted to ask Mr. Anton Metalnikov to demonstrate a completed action item that will be invaluable to businesses and residents. And I know for a fact that the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Langley Business Association have already put the link to this particular presentation on their homepages of their websites. So without further ado, Anton, if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So thank you to Mayor and Council for giving me this opportunity to present some of the work we've already done on helping Langley City businesses get back into operation. I will start off by sharing my screen and present you with this tips and resources document that was created specifically as a quick and easy to read reference to help businesses through phase 2 of the provincial restart plan. So just want to make sure again that everybody can see this document. Great. So as I mentioned, this includes just a handful of helpful resources to help businesses go through phase 2 of the provincial restart process. An example of these resources is a link to the BC Restart Plan, and this just allows businesses to go straight to the source and find the information they're looking for. So we can click on the link there, and we're taken to the provincial webpage where you can find a number of links and additional information. Going back to the document, we also have the webpage for WorkSafe BC and their Returning to Safe Operation page, which lays out a process to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in reopening. So again, on clicking on the link there, you're taking to their page here where they have these guidelines, and they're also separated by sector. So you can go to the page that's relevant to you and figure out exactly how to navigate this process of reopening back up. Back to the PDF. So there's some additional information here. There's links here on obtaining personal protective equipment from Canadian suppliers. We have a link here for an online gift card platform where businesses can sign up for digital gift cards where they don't have to have physical cards, but they don't lose any money in the process. And then additionally, we have a number of local links to the Downtown Langley Business Association, the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce, as well as the City of Langley, just to give businesses some more local-oriented information and perhaps more accessible contacts and real people that they can talk to about what they're going through. So in addition to this document, we have updated our website that I will show you right now with same but even more information. So first of all, I know I've presented to you before about the Invest web section that we're planning on adding, and it is now live. So you can see it here at the top, and that is now where all of our business relevant information will be centralized. Right now, we have been using it very timely as a COVID-19 resource center. So everything that the city can present to help businesses navigate this pandemic will now be put into that section. So as an example, we have added a slider here on our homepage, reopening your business, up-to-date information. Clicking on that takes you to our Invest homepage, where that document, tips and resources that I just showed you, has been adapted to fit our website structure. So all the same information is there. It's just available in an additional place so it's easier to find. The City of Langley section right here at the end invites you to visit our resources page where we have even additional links that you can go through. If you can see this here, this includes links on financial support, businesses reopening resources, so just how to go through with their process, as well as business continuity and preparedness resources, so businesses know how to best accommodate this new reality, even as they start reopening. And of course, we will continue updating this webpage as new information comes forward and we receive further direction. Just as an example, over the weekend, the federal government started a new business support finder tool where you can, you can click the link here, you're a business, and you're allowed to find specifically the type of thing that you need to help you. So whether that be financial support or anything else, this is an example of the type of links that will be included in this new resource page. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. That's absolutely wonderful. Councillor James, did you have any other comments on that?
Yeah, just thank everyone again. And these action items are very positive, and there's many that are already in the works. So I'm delighted to, looking forward to presenting what the accomplishments are of this group and the community and council and task group members going forward, because it's a very, very positive thing. So thanks everyone.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's going to take all of us working together to get this done. So, and we will. Okay, so I think that was it. Did, oh, Councillor Stortaboom, sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that that's a great report. It shows a lot of really positive initiatives moving forward. And I like the initiatives that will include council so we can be actively involved to feel the pulse of our community as we move forward. Again, really excited about this initiative. Thank you for all participants. I think that we all have to take individual responsibility moving forward, but we are moving forward together. And I look forward to presenting our community in such a way that people will be especially impressed by what we're doing here. Just really impressed by this. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Councillor Albrecht, sorry, I didn't see your hand there. There you go. No, you're on mute now. Double click.
Unmute. There we
go.
So yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I want to just thank my chair of the task group, Councillor James, done a great job, and the task group is an outstanding group of individuals that bring a wealth of knowledge, experience, and insight to the table, and I'm honored to be part of that. I believe we've got the right approach, the right people to make some proactive steps and changes. And we're going to be action orientated, as everyone can see. Staff have already done an outstanding job with this website. It's full of information, links, updates, resources. It's open for everybody to improve their place and position in our community, and helping them establish their economic footing all over again. And I think it's going to provide a lot of opportunities for people that are out there that are willing to take a chance and try to do something maybe a little bit different, because I think a lot of businesses are looking at things differently than prior to COVID. And I think we have to look at it in a positive and proactive approach. So exciting times. It's time to everyone roll up our sleeves and start making some significant changes and implement some action items in our community to make it really the place to be, which I believe it is. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Councillor Albrecht. Yep, our new norm, right? That's where we're going, new norm. Okay, any other comments? If not, I don't see anybody else's hands raised. So I'm going to go on to administrative reports. Conducting electronic public hearings under Ministerial Order M139, that public hearings be held electronically as required as authorized under Ministerial Order M139 and in accordance with Section 4653 of the Local Government Act. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Pahal and Councillor Albrecht. Is there any discussion on that, folks? Councillor Pahal? No. Okay. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure how electronic public hearings are going to work. We're allowed to have 50 or under in a room. I guess I know it's according to size, but I'm not sure that I've ever seen 50 people come to a public hearing. So I guess there's no harm in trying it, but I really am doubtful that these public hearings are going to work. So, and I guess, you know, the other thing we're looking at, the budget implications, $5,000 for a year's subscription or a monthly subscription for 100 users at $80. I'm not sure which one staff's going to go with, but I, at this time, would suggest that we go with the monthly subscription, because we don't know how long this is going to last, and hopefully staff can work out. I, for one, would like to get back into council chambers. I'm sure we could do social distancing with our chambers, and even with the amount of public that usually shows up at our meeting, I think we could still do social distancing within the council chambers. So is there any comment on what staff is going to go with as far as the subscriptions go?
Mr. Chung, did you want to comment on that?
I can actually comment on that if you like, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you.
That is actually both. We had to get the Zoom conferencing subscription in order to do regular council meetings and committee meetings. So that's for all of these meetings that the city does. So that is what was already required. And then what would be an addition for the public hearings, acquire Zoom webinar, which is different from what Zoom meetings is as an application. So it's really an $80 monthly subscription for the times that we need to use the public hearing function, which we only anticipate for a few months.
So we're already paying $5,000?
That is my understanding for the expense to have Zoom meetings installed, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Councillor Martin? No? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Storteboom and then Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm especially impressed with this Zoom software. It impresses me as an application for this time that has gone around the world and made a difference in the lives of so many people. I appreciate that this will be an opportunity for us to work within the provincial guidelines that are established to open up these meetings and provide for the opportunity to have more input from the public, and I appreciate that. I think it's really important that we communicate that effectively with the public so they know that this opportunity is available and hopefully feel comfortable with using this particular software. It is fairly straightforward when you're familiar with it, but it may be intimidating because it is technology, to be sure. For myself, I recognize that we have a lot of accounts and sub-accounts that are paid for. I wouldn't mind having access to one of those because I'm using Zoom for a lot of other meetings as well, and I wouldn't mind if I could host some meetings through the Zoom product if that's available from the city account. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. I'm sure we can address that after. And I have Councillor Bahal up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to Councillor Martin's comments, I know that other municipalities have been using Zoom for their public hearings quite successfully, probably for a month now. So I think I'm not concerned because I've seen that work. And then another thing that's really interesting is I think this may give an opportunity for people that might not otherwise attend a council meeting to be able to attend. So there's a new opportunity there. And as Councillor Storteboom was talking about earlier, seniors generally are the folks that we would traditionally see at these public hearings. And given that they're at a higher risk for death from COVID, I think it's very prudent of us to be offering an online way to make sure that we're protecting the most vulnerable people in our community while still allowing them to take part of civil society.
Great, thanks for those comments. Councillor Martin? Councillor Martin, you had your hand up. Did you have another comment for? There.
Can you hear me?
Now again.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes.
So I just want to make it clear, I'm not opposed to the public being taking part in our public hearings. What I said was, I'm not sure how successful it's going to be. And regardless of all the things that the Councillor Pakal said, I know all the risks that are there. So, you know, I'm just hoping that it works. I'm not saying I don't want to hear from them. We have to hear from them, but hopefully it works. I'm not sure how many seniors will get onto the Zoom, but anyway, we'll give it a try. No harm in trying.
Be surprised, right? Never know. Okay, any other? No, so I guess I'll call the vote on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Okay, so we are on to new and unfinished business. Motions, notices of motions. Councillor Wallace, did you want to go first with your sustainable packaging for food and beverage industry, please?
Sure. Thank you. Sustainable packaging for the food and beverage industry. That the following resolution be forwarded to the appropriate provincial minister and federal minister with copies to City of Langley MPs and MLA. Whereas the consumption of single-use plastics and styrofoam have increased considerably during the COVID-19 pandemic, perpetuating long-term impacts on the environment. This will continue with the ongoing restrictions pertaining to the food and beverage industry. Whereas subsidizing biodegradable and or eco-friendly takeout containers and bags for the food and beverages industry within Langley City would provide support for businesses to transition within our municipality during the restart phase of the pandemic and serve as a lasting benefit to the environment locally and globally. Be it resolved that Langley City Council requests the provincial and federal governments to provide a subsidy for biodegradable and or eco-friendly packaging for the food and beverage industry.
Great. Councillor Pahal, I believe you're seconding that. Excellent, thank you. Just gotta lower your hand. And Councillor Martin, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I thought this would be a notice of motion, but it doesn't matter. I'm wondering if staff could comment on bringing in are we able to bring in a bylaw to ban styrofoam containers within the city of Langley?
Did staff want to address that? I don't believe we're allowed to.
Madam Mayor, to Council Martin, I think that's something for consideration by council. As you well aware, City of Victoria a few years ago introduced a ban on plastic bags, and obviously it went through the whole legal system. And I think it's I'm not sure where it's at right now, but I think if that's something that council would like to see, obviously we can introduce the ban, but I'm probably certain that we're going to get challenged by the industries, and then we're probably going to end up, tied up in court proceeding. And until the provincial governments or the federal governments introduce legislations to ban that from our society, then it will probably be a case where the judicial system may have to rule upon whether we can do that or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I guess I just wonder how many people realize that styrofoam can be recycled by taking it to the depots. I know it's an extra trip for everybody, but I'm not sure how well that's promoted, but that's fine. Thanks for your answer, Mr. Chung.
Great, thanks, Councillor Martin. Councillor Wallace, did you want to speak to that?
If I could, I don't know. I feel like, we should have been moving on this a long time ago. I feel bad bringing it up now that our businesses are faced with so many challenges it is. And it's always, you always kind of feel frightened that you're going to, bring something up that is in regards to protecting, our environment. I'm going to read you guys something in regards to styrofoam, just on a health basis, if that would be allowed.
As long as it's quick.
Okay, styrofoam is made out of styrene, which petroleum-based product. Polystyrene contains a toxic substance, styrene and benzene, suspected carcinogens and neurotoxins that are hazardous to humans. Hot foods and liquids actually start to partially break down of the styrofoam, causing some toxins to be absorbed into the bloodstream and tissue. So there's more reasons why we need to be moving forward with this. And I guess in my motion is that, by sending it to these other levels of government, it's just saying this is something, I'm putting it forth as far as Langley City, but it's something that we should be doing in all municipalities. We should be moving away from styrofoam. And as far as things that go into the garbage, we can talk about single-use plastics. We can say that, yeah, there's, we recycle plastic, we recycle styrofoam, but you know what? How many people still throw their styrofoam and their single-use plastics in our waste? So that's just my comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that educational information piece. It's quite interesting. Councillor Stouterboom, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I will support this initiative. I would look forward to a response from other levels of government and other municipal governments that might be chiming in. I believe it's a good initiative. For myself, though, I believe that it would be more effective and positive to offer incentives for biodegradable packaging, and I would prefer to go the positive route rather than going to a ban, especially when it might impact one of Langley City's largest employers. So I look forward to this response, and I support the initiative in full. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Stouterboom. Anybody else before I call the vote? I think it's a great initiative, so I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you for bringing that forward, Councillor Wallace. And now, Councillor Pahal, you have your amendment to add to this.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. And I know normally we would follow the notice of motion and then a motion protocol. So this is sort of what we call, I guess, emergency sort of situation.
Time sensitive.
Yes. So I was out of the discussions that came out of the hub letter that we received, and sort of out of personal observation, Sidewalks are about 1.5, 1.8 meters in the city, which means that you can't keep 2 meters apart, which was concerning. But then there was a discussion by Dr. Bonnie Henry stating that if you walk by people, really the risk, I believe is what she said, negligible. So I was speaking with Mr. Baumhoff about would Fraser Health provide guidance about this, because I've seen, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Baumhoff, maybe he can add some context after this. I see people walking on the roads trying to avoid other people, and with increased traffic, I'm concerned that it's just a matter of time before we get into a conflict which someone may get injured. So given that it seems that we don't need to be 2 meters on a sidewalk, but we haven't been able to get that clarity from Fraser Health, and maybe if it's all right, Madam Mayor, would Mr. Baumhoff be able to add some more context before I continue talking?
Go ahead, Mr. Baumhoff.
Certainly, yeah, in my conversation with Fraser Health, there was somewhat, not sure about which direction or what the purpose of the information would be for. So they're requesting some additional clarification. Would it be for the public? Would it be just for council? That of that nature. But I think it would be useful if there was a letter from council to Fraser Health requesting the information, because you do see it, in many communities, people walking out on the road, and I think there's a higher risk of that than there is of the spread of COVID, and they've in my conversation they've actually confirmed that. But it would be good to have that in writing so that we can then help them disseminate it to the public as well.
Great, thanks.
So if I may
Did you want to
continue,
add?
yeah, I'm just going to read a motion here for council to consider. So it's whereas Dr. Bonnie Henry stated that if you are passing someone on the sidewalk where you cannot keep 2 meters apart and you walk by them very quickly, the risk of spreading COVID-19 is negligible. Whereas the standard sidewalk is around 1.5 meters, making it impossible to keep 2 meters apart. Whereas many people are walking in general vehicle travel lanes to maintain a 2 meter distance from other people, increasing the risk of personal injury, that council direct Mayor Vandenbroek to send a letter on behalf of council requesting that Fraser Health provide official public guidance for people who are passing others while using a sidewalk.
I'll second that. Councillor Sturdivant or Councillor Albrecht, one of the two. I'm assuming you both were seconding that. Okay, you were both at the same time, so I'm going to go with Councillor Albrecht on that second. How does that sound? Okay, any discussion on that? Or comments for Councillor Paul? I think it's a great idea and it's good for clarification. So I will support it. I will call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Wonderful. Okay, on to correspondence. So first one is City of Port Moody, support the post-COVID recovery as an opportunity to upgrade our society by eliminating homelessness. What is council's wishes with this? Councillor Sturdivant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This really speaks to my heart. We are in an historic time when it feels like we're restarting our society again. And I believe that there's a lot of really good ideas, initiatives, talking points that come out of this particular piece of correspondence that I would really like to see us pursue with the provincial government. So I would like to recommend that we offer a letter of support for the City of Port Moody to be directed to the provincial government with the understanding that it is our wish to see a better world and a better society moving out of this pandemic.
Great. So do we want to take the resolution that Port Moody actually did and just use that as a motion and replace our name in it? That would be my suggestion. That's
okay.
What I'm going to suggest tonight as a motion to go forward, that we use Port Moody's motion and just replace Port Moody with City of Langley.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because it's the same thing. It's just we might as well instead of rewriting it. So second your request then. Councillor Wallace?
Thank you. I think it's a wonderful initiative, and there's a lot of great points to it. One of the things about homelessness, eliminating homelessness, it's a big word, eliminating. I think, I don't know how you can replace that word, because no matter how much we try, there are going to be some people that do not. They want to stay on the street, and we all know that. We have citizens within the city that are like that. So I don't know, and not, it's such a strong word, right? When we use eliminating. So I just put it to the rest of my colleagues to ask you what you think about that, or if you have a suggestion in maybe using another word.
Does anybody have a friendly amendment word for eliminating?
We do.
Google search out.
Reducing or something along as
not reducing. I know what you're trying to say, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Pahal, did you have a comment?
I mean, I guess you could just say significantly reducing homelessness.
Okay. Councillor Sturdeboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Wallace, for your words. I'm okay with the word eliminating. I would prefer that we set the target high rather than starting off by setting the target for less than complete. I believe that there may be those who prefer to stay on the street, but it may be too that they've just given up hope. I think that it's natural for all of God's creatures to have a place to call home. And I think that eliminating homelessness in our time would be a wonderful development and a goal worth achieving. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Sturdeboom. Okay, anybody else? Did you want to do a friendly word amendment to that, Rosemary, or do you just let it go as is and we'll put the motion forward?
It's not the wish of council, and I agree with your sentiments, Councillor Sturdeboom. I would love to see everybody that are on the streets. I've worked with organizations dealing with homelessness on many levels. I know there are people out there that do not want to be confined. I'm fine with leaving this if the rest of council is fine with it. I just wanted to make that point because every voice, as much as
it's a really good point.
As much as we would love to eliminate homelessness, every voice counts, right? So even those voices that are dealing with extreme, mental health, and that I'm just thinking about them as well. So I'm fine with moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so if no further discussion on that, I'll call the vote on we're gonna send the resolution made by Port Hardy inserting City of Langley. So I just wanna make that clear that that's what we're gonna do. So I will call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. So we will send off a letter. Excellent. Good work, everyone. Okay, the Alliance of Beverage Licensees, ABLE BC, requests for flexible, innovative, and expanded patio permitting. So what is council's wishes? I just love that wording. It's very well written. What is does anybody have any wishes with this? Seeing none? Oh, Councilor Martin, sorry, I see you. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to refer this to staff for a report on alblementing something like this, now that we're allowed to do this as a city government.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Albrecht.
Second.
Okay. Councillor James, I believe. Is that a question?
Yeah, just a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, just an update actually for the members of council. So the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Langley Business Association, and Langley City staff are all currently working on a letter that it's basically a letter of intent, and it will go to every restaurant or food establishment or beverage establishment in Langley City to get the feeler out to see if there's even an interest from the restaurants to expand. And the challenge that we have is, like, the communities that are able to do it have they already have, like, you know, pocket patios and stuff in place. So it's a bit of an undertaking, but I just wanted everyone to know that there is a letter that will be going out probably early next week. And then we'll have a really good idea of the interest level for the restaurants. Because surprisingly enough, special interest groups that are asking the question, not the restaurants. So thank you.
It is very interesting, isn't it? Councillor Stortaboom.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I know that there's a lot of moving parts to this initiative, well, with liquor licensing and, you know, occupancy, social distancing, available space, and what could be made available for individual situations. So referring it back to staff impresses me as being the right thing to do. And I will look forward to receiving that report, hopefully in a timely manner. And I know that our restaurant tours, our businesses, would like to know that this is an option in keeping with the recovery model that's been presented for our city. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Mr. Johansson, I'm sorry, I missed you. Did you have something to say? I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Perfect. I just wanted to briefly update council that, staff are working on a framework to enable that for interested businesses looking to expand on the public right-of-way or city sidewalk through the use of highway use permits and sidewalk use agreements. And we can make that happen pretty quickly in response to the results of what we hear from the businesses. And I'd also like to report that late last week, the Provincial Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch came up with some new temporary policies that are effective until October 31st, 2020. And it's really good news, especially for restaurants which have food primary liquor licenses, basically enabling restaurants to reallocate their occupant load to outdoor patios through a pretty easy application process. They've set up an online portal for restaurants to apply and receive an updated license from the branch. So those are all things that we can report back to council on. Thank you.
Yeah, they moved really quickly. That was good to see. They took the initiative on doing that, the provincial government, which was really nice. The other question to that, Mr. Johansson, it might be the time to ask, is there any way we could extend operating hours as well for the businesses or change it?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Our business licensing bylaw doesn't have hours specified for businesses. So from that viewpoint, we don't have a regulation per se. It's more of for restaurants that have liquor primary or patio licenses. Usually it's the liquor branch that stipulates those hours. But that's something we can also have feedback into as well.
Excellent, thank you. I'd appreciate that. Okay, Councillor Martin.
Yeah, thank you. I guess one thing I meant to mention and forgot was if we do something like this, I'd like staff's comments on perhaps putting a timeline on this. I mean, I think here in British Columbia, come October, November, December, and we're not going to have any outdoor patios. But, you know, if somebody doesn't, like if we put, say, a 6-month timeline on it and they don't want to close down, would staff see having a timeline perhaps with a fine if they don't comply with closing it down?
Your Worship, to Councillor Martin, what we would probably like to see is that we will tie the timeline to provincial timeline. You know, like Mr. Carl Johansson said, that the new ministerial order stipulates that this relaxation of liquor primary is until October. So
Yeah.
our guidelines or timeline will be very similar or aligned with the provincial requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Okay. Seeing no other hands raised, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of referring it to staff? None opposed. That carries. Thank you for that, Councillor Martin. Langley's Breweries and Restaurants. Next piece of correspondence was a request for a flexible and efficient system to allow the extension of outdoor seating areas. What is council's wishes? Well, it's the same as the last letter, so I guess we can just include that. So if anybody has any objections, I don't see any. Okay. Number 4, District of Saanich support Global Covenant of Bears for Climate and Energy Initiative. What is council's wishes with this one? I personally say to receive it for information. If everybody's okay with that, just receive it. Excellent. Okay, and then moving on to new business. Release a motion from May 11, 2020, closed meeting of council, appointment to the environmental task group, that Ellen Hall be appointed to the city's environmental task group for the current term, expiring December 31st, 2020 as a voting community member at large. So that's absolutely fantastic. And motion that the meeting adjourn. I need a mover and a seconder. I've got, who I got? I got Councillor Wallace, Councillor James, all those in favor. And that carries. Well done, people.